After 50 years I decided it was time to upgrade and refresh the components in my Celestion Ditton 66s. So the first thing to do is to take the feet off, to disconnect the cable, and the next thing I'm going to do is take the front off. The front is removed by taking the screws out, the single screw out under here. So here we have at the top the HF, the high frequency unit, followed by the mid unit, a beautiful bass unit, and then the passive, what they call the ABR, the acoustic bass radiator. On this side of the speakers you can see that I've already replaced the cables with slightly thicker ones, but in the original one the cables are very thin, and we'll change these for OFC later. Next we remove the bass unit, which is held down by 4 screws, which are taken out, and you keep those. Make sure you keep the washers, and then I'll gently lift out the bass unit. So here we have the crossover unit. In this case it's a slightly bad example that I've replaced some of the cables, but in the original configuration the cables to the drivers are very short. So next I'm going to disconnect the cables to the bass unit. To take out the mid-range unit, and I've clipped off the wires so we can measure how long they are and just take those out with the clips. And after that we'll take the HF unit out. So here's the HF unit taken out, again with the wires clipped off. To take out the crossover board you'll need a 4BA spanner, which is a bit of a oddity these days. Here's the crossover unit removed from the board. Make sure you keep all the screws and the washers, because you're going to need those later, because they go back onto these pins. These are the old terminal units which we've taken out with a 6BA spanner, and we're going to replace those with gold plated ones. To prepare for the new cables we need to remove the solder from the old connectors. This is best done using a solder sucker. Careful with these the HF units, because they've got some delicate cabling. It's important to clear out these holes completely, because you're going to put thicker cables through. This is a close-up of a crossover board. You can see here the HF connections. Note that the positive one goes to ground rather than the other way, and there we have the 3 2 microfarad capacitors, 4 on its own. Here we have the connections to the base. I'm going to move that coil up. I'm going to move this coil down, because those 272s are going to be replaced with capacitors much fatter than that one. Down the bottom we have a 24 microfarad one. On the other one, it's in the design it's actually a 30, so I think they chose what they could find, and I'm going to replace these connectors. This is one of the completed cables. This is the base unit one. You can see I've made off with some red tape to make it pretty obvious which is the positive side, some heat shrink sleeving, and some silver solder. Here we have the crossover board with all the capacitors removed and all the solder taken out of the joints. If you'll notice, what I've done is suck the solder out of the middle of those so the capacitors can go neatly into onto the tags. There's the 4 microfarad in place there, and the other one in place there. This is the Solen 70 microfarad with the Supersound 2 microfarad. Here's the Supersound 30 in place, and I put foam underneath to support it. It also lifts the capacitor off the board so you can easily fit the nut onto the stud. I'm moving this inductor down about 1 centimetre so that the big capacitor will sit a little bit lower. This is how one of the 72 is going to fit. And here's the board complete with all its wiring and its capacitors ready to go in. This junction was a bit of a challenge because it's got about 4 or 5 different inputs to it. These are going to be the connections to the HF unit. Here you can see I've added an extra board behind the terminals because the cable was rather thin, and here's the terminals made up. Soldered all the units back together, screwed them back in, got it working. Sounds fantastic. Job done.